with my Nana. Her name is Paulette, and I'm going to be doing my project with her. Okay, first question. What was life like growing up?
Well, life was very different than it is now. Nana was born 66 years ago. That was in 1956, like back in the olden days. And we went to school because I lived in the city, but some kids who didn't live in a city didn't get to go to school. Or if they did, they had like 10 grades in one room. Yeah, if some kids who lived out around the bay, that's how it was then. So we went to school every day, and then on Sunday we went to church in the morning, and then in that we came home and we had our Sunday dinner, and then we went back to church to go to Sunday school. So that was our Sunday. And we used to play mostly outdoors. We didn't play indoors because kids just went outdoors and played. We played climbing trees. We played hopscotch. We knew how to skip. We would go sliding on our own, no parents, just the kids, and go over in the field. We'd throw a ball around or kick a ball around, not like soccer. We didn't know what soccer was then. Anyway, we had lots of fun. We had lots of friends because everybody was outdoors, and we knew everybody in the neighborhood. We did. We didn't always have a car, and a lot of people didn't have a car back then, so the streets weren't as busy as they were then, so we could play out in the streets. But we walked everywhere. Everywhere we wanted to go, we walked, or sometimes if we had the money, we took the bus. But we didn't depend on our parents to drive us everywhere like kids do today. Sometimes we didn't have big supermarkets either. So sometimes there was always a neighborhood grocery store or a corner store, and sometimes a neighbor would ask me to go to the store for them to get a loaf of bread or some eggs or something, and you always went. And sometimes they gave you a nickel, 5 cents for going, and then you could go to another store and buy 5 cents worth of mixed candy. So you get your candy in a little paper bag, and you might have 10 or 15 little candy in your bag. So that was pretty nice.
Okay. Second question.
Nice and loud.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school from kindergarten to grade 6 to St. Michael's School, and that was on Beaumont Street, the same street that I lived on until I was 11 or 12. And that school went from K to 6, and it was like any other school. School is not there anymore now. It was torn down, and now there's townhouses built there. But we had music, and we had gym, and like you do today, but just no computers or anything. So we printed everything in our little notebooks.
Okay. How is life different today compared to when you were my age? Like food, your house, like playing, medicine, stuff.
Can I go back to school for a second?
Okay.
To the last question, I just want to say that we have 40 kids in our class. 40 kids, and we lived on the same street, so we always walked home for lunch. And then when I was in grade 3 or 4, my mom went to work, and we couldn't go home to lunch anymore, so we had to make up. I had to bring everybody's lunch. I had 3 brothers and 1 sister, and I brought everybody's lunch in a big paper bag, a whole pile of peanut butter and jam sandwiches, and then at lunchtime I'd go around to each of them and pass them their lunch, and we had milk in a container that was made up of powdered milk and water, because we couldn't afford fresh milk. And every now and then we had a cookie. That's what that was like.
Okay, back
So,
to the third question.
okay, the third question. So, well, food, we didn't have fast food places like McDonald's or Tim Hortons or anything like that. We made what we needed to eat. We made all our meals, or my parents did. And there were restaurants, but we couldn't afford to go to restaurants very often. So that was different, a lot different than it is now. Our house, we didn't own our house, we rented it, and there was 2 bedrooms and there was 5 kids. So there was 5 kids in 1 bedroom. So 2 girls in a little bed and 3 boys in bunk beds. 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top. And we did have a backyard, small backyard, and sometimes in the winter we had a skating rink, which was excellent, but we had no front yard because our door was right on the sidewalk. So that was different too. In our house, we did have a phone, and it was attached to the wall, but our phone was shared with other people on the street. I mean, they had their own phones too, but if you picked up the phone to make a call, maybe there was someone on the phone already. So you had to say, I want to make a call. Can you get off, or whatever. So you had to take turns with your neighbors using the phone, basically. We had a TV. A lot of people had a TV then, but it was black and white. It wasn't color. And it was a big piece of furniture sitting on the floor, and you had 2 channels. 2 channels, yeah. So we didn't spend a lot of time watching TV. Playing, we had very few toys. We might get a toy for Christmas. We might get a toy for our birthday if we were lucky. And sometimes it had to be clothes or new shoes or something. And sometimes we used toys that other people gave us that they were finished with. But, you know, mostly we had a skipping rope, and we'd usually get that for Easter. We'd play hopscotch, we'd play with our dolls. Yeah. Medicine, well, kids got sick back then, same as they do today, but we didn't have daycares, so we didn't have a cold all the time like a lot of kids do. There was no Janeway back then. The Janeway didn't open till I was 10 years old. So I never ever went to the Janeway, and there was no Health Sciences Center either. That came much later. So if we got sick or needed stitches or needles or anything, we went to the Grace Hospital or St. Clair's.
Question. Did your brothers ever fight about being on their own in the bed, like the top?
Oh, all the time. All the time. And the brothers on the bottom used to put their feet up and, and bump the older brother up in the top one. There was always a lot of fighting when there's 5 kids in a house. Always a lot of fighting, but not anything serious, just normal stuff.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born here in St. John's at St. Clair's Hospital.
Okay. When did you start to like sewing?
I think the first time I ever did anything like that was in Brownies, and we learned a little tiny bit, and then we learned some more in Girl Guides, and earned our sewing badge. And as a teenager, I made a little bit of clothes because my mom knew how to sew, and she would help me. And then as an adult, I made clothes for my 2 kids, your mom and Uncle Kenny, and now I love to quilt.
Okay. What was your first sport?
when I was your age, I didn't really have a sport because we didn't have organized sports like you do today. But I did do swimming lessons when I was little at Bannerman Park in an outdoor pool. It's still there today. I did Scottish dancing lessons when I was about your age. And then as I got older, you had to pay for all these things. So like I said before, people didn't have a lot of money back then. So you mostly did free things. But when I got a little bit older, I was in dancing lessons, jazz lessons, baton lessons, tennis lessons, piano, and I learned how to play the flute. And then when I got older, like almost an adult, I played volleyball and softball. So that was organized sports. That was the first time I ever played in any organized sports, volleyball and softball.